So welcome to Meet Ava. See what people say instantly, anywhere you go. This webinar is hosted by the Network of Assistive Technologists on this Friday, the 24th of July, 2020. Please join me in welcoming Ava's co-founder and COO, Pieter Doevendans. Today, Pieter will share with us his learnings and insights gained through working with people who are deaf or hard of hearing, the latest developments in automatic speech recognition space at Ava, the advantages and limitations of technology for the deaf and hard of hearing, and he'll provide us with a demonstration of the different ways in which Ava can be used to empower individuals with hearing loss in their social and professional lives. So Ava's co-founder and COO, Pieter Doevendans, grew up in the Netherlands, where he completed a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering at the University of Technology Eindhoven. He went on to complete his master's degree in Innovation Sciences, for which he spent 1 year studying at UC Berkeley. This is where he met his co-founders and started Ava in 2014. Today, Pieter leads the business development and sales teams at ava.me. So I will now hand the presentation over to Pieter, and as he starts his screen sharing, we will begin today's presentation.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, Doug, for the introduction. I'm pleased to and honored to be here and to present to you today. Yeah, I guess, the introduction already gave away a little bit about my background. Originally from the Netherlands, went to the United States about 7 years ago to study at UC Berkeley. And that's where I met my my co-founder, which on the next slide, I have a visual of us. Yes, here you go. And so on the right, this is my co-founder and CEO, Thibaut, who's from France. And Thibaut is born in a deaf family. Both his parents and his sister are deaf. So while at UC Berkeley, we were both actually taking the same class, and I run into him. He told me about his story, and he said, I want to see how technology can change the lives of my family, but also so many more people out there. And that's something that really inspired me and intrigued me to actually jump on the bandwagon and basically start working together in the evenings and weekends while we're studying there to build the future of accessibility in that regard. And so the other person on the screen is our other co-founder, and he's currently our CTO. His name is Skinner, and he's from Taiwan originally. Skinner, since he is 2 years old, has been deaf, fully deaf. And when he came to the United States, his main means of communication was basically pen and paper and Apple Notes. So basically just writing down on his phone or computer a note and then showing to the person he wanted to speak with. And so, we really, in that regard, it's a very personal story to us. And, Skinner ultimately, the very first demo product that we built was built by himself. For himself, and I think it's an interesting example of, as they say it, eat your own dog food. So really, we are the first people to test and use the app with our team. And I think today also Skinner has a lot more access to all the conversations that happen within the organization, but also outside of the organization through some of the tools that he built himself. But also for so many more people out there. So, according to the WHO, right now there are about 460 million people in the world who suffer from disabling hearing loss. And every day these people find themselves challenged in social and professional interactions. And this is not only a frustration for them, but also for the people around them, their families and colleagues at times. And so, it's clearly a pretty, very significant problem to be solved. And so when we started looking at this together, we first actually just interviewed so many people and spoke with so many people to get a better understanding of what the real challenges were. Thibaut, my co-founder, being born in a deaf family, his first language is actually sign language, and he had a lot of experience translating for his family out in the world. Basically the phone calls and the interactions with people who didn't know sign language. So our first assumption and thought was, well, what if we could come up with some technology that could translate sign language into voice, so that if Thibaut's parents are out there and signing to people, that it essentially speaks for them. But when we started to talk to more and more people, we found that there was a much bigger problem, namely, how do I understand conversations when there's multiple people speaking, and I have to lip read, and somebody else starts talking right next to me, and I'm just very quickly lost in the conversation. And that is in a non-COVID time. Now today with COVID, everyone is wearing masks. We have these virtual meetings where people don't have their cameras turned on. There's a lot of internet connectivity issues. So the challenges for deaf and hard of hearing individuals have only extended and increased since. And so that's really where the idea of Ava came from. How can we provide another channel of information to those individuals when they are in those conversations? And so Ava stands for audio visually accessible. And that's really sort of the idea of saying, okay, besides what the hearing aid industry is doing already to sort of try to amplify some of the residual hearing that people might have, here's a visual channel for people to be able to read along and see what's happening. And so that actually makes me sort of jump right into kind of some of the things that I want to demonstrate today in terms of how the app works, and what different things we can do with Ava today. It starts with the fact that if you use Ava just on the mobile device, and I'm trying to see if there's a way for me to quickly share my phone screen. I wasn't successful in doing so previously, so let me just see if I can pull that up here. Just seeing if my phone share is willing to come through. And it's connecting right now, so we'll see. But while I'm having that happen, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about like using Ava on the mobile phone. So first of all, Ava, you can download it today from the App or Play Store. It's available on iOS as well as Android. And when downloaded on the phone, basically as soon as you open the app, it starts picking up what the speaker is saying. So in this scenario here, in the picture you're looking at, we have two people where the person on the left is actually deaf, and he walks up to his colleague and he can just hold the phone up to the speaker. One of the interesting things that we do is that the microphone that we use typically on the device is in the bottom. And so if you point the microphone towards the speaker, the screen will automatically flip. So the deaf or hard of hearing person can still easily read along with what's being said. Unfortunately, I'm getting a notification that the screen share didn't work. So I'm going to see if I can figure out a different way to do so. So that I can actually show you in real time what my phone screen looks like. For those individuals who do not verbally communicate, there's also the text-to-speech option. So they can type back and then they can have the phone voice it out for them. There's different ways to also connect Ava with microphones. And so you can have, if an individual already has an FM system, for example, let's say the Roger Pen, we see a lot of students, especially also, that use these kinds of tools that they give to the teacher, so to amplify the sound or the speaking. If I take, for example, the Roger Pen, I can actually connect that with my hearing aids, and at the same time, I can connect it with my mobile phone. And in Ava, which you can see in the screen on the left here, I have the ability then to connect with that Bluetooth microphone. So what I can do is basically have the Roger Pen stream audio to my hearing aids, and at the same time stream the text to Ava. So I have both those at the same time. If you don't have already an FM system, then you can make use of an existing microphone, such as a Bluetooth microphone or a wired microphone, depending on the situation. So today we have a lot of students that make use of the microphone that you see here, which is called the Hey mic. The reason why we recommend that a lot is because it's very accessible for people, and it's accessible from a price point, I should say. It has a good quality Bluetooth range as well as quality microphone built into it, and it's easy to clip onto the shirt. And so the student today will give this to the teacher and then sit at their desk and either be looking at their phone or tablet or laptop, whatever's the preferred way to see the captions, which, by the way, I'll also get into sort of what it looks like on a laptop shortly. In the meantime, I'm still trying to pull up my phone, but I'm not very successful, unfortunately, and I apologize for that. But at least we have some screenshots that I took here, so you have an idea of what it looks like. So one of the unique things about Ava is that beyond using it on my own personal device, I can also connect with other people's devices. And so here, what you see is essentially, if I look at this first screen, people, whoever wants to join me, can also join me as a guest, so they don't actually have to sign up, and they can scan a QR code. So if I'm an Ava user, I have a unique Ava link as well as a QR code that are and a unique username. So anyone around me, whether it's my friends or family, or let's say a teacher or another person, a colleague, they can easily join me by either scanning my QR code or by going to a web page and actually typing in my username. The other individuals, they can decide to download an app if they wanted to, especially if these interactions happen often, but they don't necessarily have to. They can also just join me through the web application, in which case they don't have to download any software, and I can still see what they're saying. So what's cool about it is that once I have multiple people connected, the color per speaker will be differentiated. And that way it's easy for me to see, who's speaking and what's being said. And while I'm showing you this, I'm realizing that perhaps, if you want to get a sort of a quick sense of what it looks like too, you're welcome to join my phone, because I have my phone currently running with the captions. If I go back to the very first slide here, what you'll notice at the bottom of the screen is this link. This is my unique link, actually. And so if you were to go to this link right now, then you have the ability to connect with me, and on my phone, I will be able to see what you say. You will also be able to see what I say. So back here, and I'm also going to take a look at the chat here so that I'm not missing any comments or things. Oh, there we go. Okay, great. Doug also posted this very link in the chat of Zoom. So if you want, you can check that out there as well. And also the link to the Hey microphone is posted there. Thanks for doing that, Doug. Okay, so no, I was here actually. So that gives me sort of that ability to now use Ava in a group conversation, and keep in mind that it's possible to connect any number of devices. That could be phones, tablets, or laptops. And if you see this picture on the right, this is an example of our team, where half of our team is actually in Paris. We have people in Denver, Colorado. We have people across the country, basically connecting in using Ava on their end. And it's fairly simple to do, and we do this pretty much for all our internal meetings today. One of the things too that I should point out here, it's if you look at the features, the third feature here is interesting. If other individuals are joining my session, whether it's a fellow student or a friend, if they find that Ava is picking up words incorrectly, because what we're looking at is all automatic speech recognition, so there are certainly errors that happen, they can actually tap on a word that they see that is mistaken and correct that word. Once they do that, Ava will actually understand next time to do better. And so basically it's not going to make the same mistake again. Furthermore, there's also the ability to save transcripts, which I will come back to in a second as well. So quick zoom in on that, depending on what kind of group conversation there is, we see that sometimes everyone in the group connects on their own device because they already have their devices out. In some cases, that may not be the case, in which case what we see happen is that people sometimes just have their personal device, so the deaf or hard of hearing individual, and then they use an additional microphone that they put on in the middle of the table, for example, or sometimes we see that a few phones are connected to one another or a few devices, and these devices are either passed around or people sit close enough to those devices to be able to speak into it. And so when you do this, you will still have the ability to pick up the whole conversation. And I think, one of the things to keep in mind here, which is basically the most important thing, is to get accurate captions, there needs to be a microphone close enough to the speaker. Because really the thing that matters there is signal to noise ratio. So the further the microphone is away, the more noise will come into the signal before it actually gets to the microphone. And that's going to really affect my accuracy. So this takes me to the next part, and especially relevant today. So what I've spoken about so far is really sort of the in-person interactions. This here is about online captioning, which obviously today, with a lot of virtual classrooms, virtual meetings, even a presentation like this one, the online captioning is more important than ever. And so, and this is also where I will actually take you out of this slide deck and show you. And I realized actually I wasn't in presentation mode so far, and I apologize for that. So let me see if I can open up my my web application. So I'm going to share a different screen with you, which is this one. This here, resume share. Let's see. Okay, I just need to figure out a way to resume the screen share. There we go. Okay, so you should be able to see this now. This here is the web application of Ava. And what you'll find, there's two or three options actually. The first one was what I basically mentioned before, the ability for other people to join me. And by the way, the web application works on any device as well. So, in the case of trying to join, for example, myself, so I would type in Pieter and I would say join the room. And that way, Pieter, in this case, myself, I would get a request of this person, this guest who's trying to join my session. The other two options are especially relevant for conference calls. So let me start with that actually. I'm going to click on join conference call. And here I then would type in, say, the link for this particular meeting today. I'll just go ahead and put a random Zoom link because I don't want to go all the way and actually connecting today because we already have captions available provided by Streamer. But in a similar way as you're seeing those captions that are showing up at the bottom currently, the exact same way Ava's captions would be showing up. And the way it would work is that I basically connect by providing the link and I say dial in. Then Ava will actually dial into the conference call. And once it's done that, we can broadcast the captions back to Zoom. So using the API token that Zoom provides for each session, we can actually send the captions in, and you are going to see something very similar to what you're seeing currently if you have enabled the captions within the Zoom, that is. Okay, so let me go away from this, and I'll show you the other option here, which is start captions now. And this is essentially me just starting a conversation or starting a session on the web application. And as you can see here in the top right, this is where my microphone is. So I can turn that off. And as you will notice, no captions will show up. Again, there's the ability for people to type something back. And here on the left, you will see several different options, which is my ability to change the font size, to change the color scheme, I can also change the language in which the person is speaking. So we do many different languages. There's even a language translation capability if you would want to use that. And of course, there's the export transcript, so the ability to save the transcripts for after. One other really important feature, actually two other important features. The first one is invite participant. So one of the things I can do is I can click on here and it automatically copies a link to my clipboard, which I can share with people. Let's say I'm in a small group conversation. It's a student who is in a work session. They can share this link with their peers. And when the peers click on this link, it will open the web application on their end. And this way it's easy for the student to actually see what everyone is saying. The second part here is improve accuracy. And this is a really important part of our services today, because so far what you've been looking at is automatic speech recognition. And I don't know how many mistakes it's already made, but I can see, for example, here, it's at peers and not peers. And that may also be because of my Dutch accent and not, pronouncing it properly. But the idea here is that we have a service which is called Ava Scribe. And Ava Scribe essentially is the ability to have a human captioner to join the session. So when the student finds themselves in a class that is maybe of more complexity, so the vocabulary is much more difficult than normal, perhaps the speaker has a thick accent, or there's a lot of background noise, for whatever reason, if the captioning accuracy might be too low for them to get a full understanding of the class, they now have the ability to say, okay, I want to have that scribe to join my session. So I say improve accuracy, and I say request a scribe now, which then in the top of my screen here, as you can see, starts calling basically our scribe service, which I'm going to cancel for now because it's a little bit of a distraction for our scribe team. But essentially what will happen is that this person comes in and starts correcting the captions so that we can provide 98% accurate captions. And they will also provide contextual information. So whether that's related to the different speakers or applauding or people laughing or certain sounds that are not captured already by the speech recognition. So those are some of the things I wanted to show here. And the one last thing I was going to say is I'm not sure what I was going to say, but this is basically the web application. We also have a desktop application. So depending on what device the student or the individual is using, they may have a preference for using this versus a desktop app. But let's say it's a laptop, then, and I'm going to have to share a different screen again. And I apologize for that. You should be able to see my screen, I think. So while you still are looking at the web application in the background, I am going to open the desktop application. Hopefully it's working. Yep, and this is a relatively new product. This was only launched last week, hence why it's not completely perfect right now. And then we get this nice little rainbow, Mac rainbow. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it means it's loading. The one quick thing I wanted to show you with this desktop application is that if the functionality of the desktop application is the exact same as the web application. But what's really great is that it has this floating captioning box, as you can see it at the bottom. And unfortunately, right now, it's not exactly doing what I wanted to do. Which is unfortunate, but to a certain extent, you get the idea of what it's supposed to do. So the captions will always overlay on top of what you're already looking at. So if you're looking at someone's presentation in Zoom or whatever it might be, you have that sort of floating captioning box on top of it, and you can move this around if you wanted to have it in the top of your screen or at the bottom of your screen. And I apologize for the fact that it's not working exactly as it should be. but at least it gives you a little bit of an idea of what it looks like. And that's the main difference between the desktop application and the web application. So there, I'm going to switch back to my presentation, the very last part of the presentation, before we sort of enter the Q&A. And maybe one quick thing I'll show you here, because it gives you actually also a good sense of what the captioning box looks like. This is an example of a Zoom call where at the bottom here, you see that this is using the desktop application, so the floating captions. This is also something that's useful when, say, the student is watching an async lecture, so pre-recorded lecture content, or let's say a video on YouTube that is not already captioned. They can turn on the desktop app or the web application, and it'll start captioning the video that they're watching, so that way they have instant captions for that video. So back to my presentation. Where do we have it? Here. Let's see if I can open it this way. And I just want to make sure that indeed, yeah, that you can see what I'm showing you. And I'm gonna, again, we have that loading screen. My computer is not helping me out this morning. My apologies. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to say specifically. No, I think that kind of covers really sort of the online capabilities. And once we, this loading screen is gone, we can actually, I can show you the very final part of the presentation. And in the meantime, while this is loading, I'm just going to talk about the fact, or the one of the features I just presented, which is the Ava Scribe, because I'm sure some of the questions there will be around, okay, you know, how does this service actually work? And so, you know, let me start by saying that really the idea is sort of combining the machine-based captions with a human who's trained to come in and correct. Really gives us sort of a nice advantage to be able to provide the service relatively quickly. Today, we are asking our clients to provide or give us a 12-hour notice that, you know, a meeting will be taking place where they need Scribe, or a class will be taking place where they need Scribe. At times, we do have requests coming in pretty last minute, and we have the ability to turn around in a few hours. But it's currently not something we can guarantee. And you know, the reason why it is basically designed as I showed you with the button in the top of the screen is because ultimately what we want this to become is really a sort of an on-demand scribe service or captioning service, where if the student has been provided with a certain number of hours of time that they are able to use the service, which the administrator can say, okay, well, this student needs it for XYZ classes, so they need 10 hours, then they can actually make the request pretty much instantly, which is, you know, still in development today. So I hope everyone is still able to see my screen and we're doing okay, because my computer seems to be a little bit stuck.
We're still seeing your screen share of your presentation in slide sorter view.
Okay, got it. Yeah, hopefully it comes back soon. My apologies for this. And, you know, if anything, we could also open it up for QA, since, you know, I don't see it changing right now. I'm just going to close this. Hopefully, maybe that changes a little bit of the bandwidth necessary here. I don't know. But perhaps we can go into Q&A, and I can already start answering questions because I covered most ground, I will say. And I'm sure there's questions about pricing, which I also have some slides on towards the end of this deck. So if anything, I hope we can show that, but otherwise I can talk through it.
Okay, what I'll do, Peter, is, well, I'll take back the screen sharing, and
Cool.
that way you can you can work
Yeah.
in the background there
Great.
with regards to. I apologize. Now mine is causing us grief here. Just
Uh-oh.
bear with me a second here. It's just the I'm loss of words today. There we are. It was pulling up the wrong screen sharing. So screen share, and there, now we should be, there we are. So now that'll allow you to play and with all the different complexities of our wonderful computer age there, and see if you can pull up back up those last few slides for us.
Yep.
So I do encourage people as we're going into the Q&A here is to please add any of the questions that you have into the chat, and those we do also have the opportunity for those who wish to voice their question using a microphone. Please go ahead and unmute yourself, and then once we see that your mic is unmuted, we'll kind of come to you hopefully in the order that you've unmuted. So so far the question that we did have the question regarding the Hey mic, and just to let everybody know if they didn't see it, is that the link to that was put into the chat, and it's loveheymic.com, L-O-V as Victor, E-H-E-Y-M-I-C.com, for those who may not have access to the chat window. So, and just on that topic, I know, Peter, when you and I spoke a couple weeks ago, that there was a bit of difficulty getting that in Canada, and the ability to get it in Canada was at a considerably higher price, likely due to COVID-19. If you could just maybe for a half a sec talk about your partnership with Hey Mike, and the fact that the supply channel that you have set up in the US.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that we have sort of a collaboration with them in the sense that we've been in touch and basically agreed that they would provide a discount to anyone who would buy the microphone through our platform. We currently, we don't have any kickbacks or anything. It's literally just a case that we refer different microphones, and this one has been also one of them that was brought up by our users, and therefore we started highly recommending it. As the current state, I think that if you go to their website, I know that they were providing a COVID discount, which actually brings the price further down. So I think if you were to look at, getting this microphone, the best thing to do is to go to their website and get it through there. You can also feel free to message me or email me, and then I can see if, we can inquire with them to get a discount, because we do have a lot of people, they're aware of the fact that Ava is a good referral for them. And I'm not sure about the pricing differences between ordering it from Canadian side or US side. I think that ultimately, again, the best way to go is their website or emailing me, and then I'll try to get a deal. Maybe we can even figure something out for the network specifically.
Okay. All right, I appreciate that. And at this time in all of our lives, it's we have external forces that are, shall we say, controlling some of our some of what we would normally be able to do with a lot of simplicity.
Yeah.
So okay, I appreciate you talking to that point regarding that Hey mic being the microphone that you primarily recommend with your Ava's service, and. I do see also here that we have a question from Maris, and I know you're going to talk about the pricing and in general, Peter, with or without your slides, if you've been able to get those up. But
yep.
The fact is that that Maris is asking regarding the pricing. He's specifically asking for regarding the Ava Scribe. And he further explains that he's looking to compare the costing of using the Ava Scribe to peer note taker in class. Peer note taker, just so we're all on the same page with terminology, is meaning that it's a live person sitting there in class, taking notes and then distributing them to their classmates. So,
totally.
Do you have your slides up?
Yeah.
Okay, then what I'll do is stop sharing, and that'll allow you to bring that up.
Great. Okay, so go
here.
Ahead. Yep, that would be here, and I'll actually change to presenter mode. Oh no, that didn't just happen. I shouldn't have done presenter mode perhaps. Okay, you know, I can actually probably fix that quite quickly because it worked a second ago. If I do this, yes, let's try it again. Here we go. And then I'm going to go here. Yeah, okay, so I'm not going to go into presenter mode. I think that might be causing the issue here. So this is pricing for Ava in general. Here is specifically also a scribe pricing, but let me actually go here and then explain in more detail. So we have monthly pricing and annual pricing. There is essentially different packages here. I think mostly what you want to be looking at is these two. Starter, I will say starter as a limitation that it's typically for really like smaller organizations where it's one individual. As you can see, you know, the way the pricing actually works to clarify this is that a license is set up for an individual. So let's say you have 5 deaf or hard of hearing individuals that you would like to set this up for, then typically we would recommend you to get 5 licenses. The main reason that we designed it that way is that we want to empower the individual in any situation they go into. So whether they are, you know, in a class or outside of class, they should have their own license, just like how I have a Zoom account that allows me to, you know, set up any number of Zoom calls by myself. And so that's kind of the logic behind that. We have monthly pricing and yearly pricing. The yearly pricing is with a discount. The way it works here is that there is a default or a base cost, which is for all the different features that we provide, as well as 24/7 automatic captions with, you know, no limitations. This also includes language translation. It includes basically all of our services. Then as you can see here, you know, the starter plan has already included some scribe captions. With the pro plan here, it is something you would purchase on top of it. As you can see, it starts at $60 an hour. Typical pricing for scribe is depends on the organization, what's the volume you're purchasing. If you're purchasing more than 10 hours a month, then it drops down to the $60 per hour price point. If you are ordering fewer hours, it actually is a bit more expensive per hour. And as you can see here with the yearly plan, some of the pricing goes down. Here is specific pricing that is you know, associated to the hours. So these are package deals where you essentially have a combination of your 24/7 automatic captioning, as well as in this case 2 hours of scribe or 5 hours of scribe. And of course, you know, there's flexibility on the number of hours that you know, you can have as many as you want, but it doesn't have to be 2, 5, 8, or 12. But it's just to give you a ballpark. But again, you know, over time, like the more volume, the lower your price is going to be. So hopefully that's helpful in terms of providing some more information and comparison there. I think, yeah, I think, you know, it's possible also, if you think about the note taker idea, there are ways for the note taker to potentially tap into Ava. Basically, they can connect in through the web application and also use Ava sort of as a base and make corrections there. You know, so there's different capabilities, and I don't know what the cost would be of a note taker per se. I think it varies a lot per organization and I guess quality of note taking as well.
Okay. Now, those pricing slides that you've included there, are they available publicly on your website?
Yes.
Okay. So, and we will be providing this presentation as part of the recording as well, so they'll be there. I know that in the slide sorter view that we're faced with right now, it's potentially a little hard for some to read some of the details there.
Yeah, I apologize.
That's technology, and when it works, it's perfect, and when it doesn't, we find a workaround. I think that's the motto of us assistive technologists. So the fact with Ava, I encourage again for people to put any questions that they have into the chat and or unmute themselves. And I know that we've had a few people who have joined in on the session just somewhat recently here that may not have been able to view and take part in live in the demonstrations and that. So please, for those who have joined late, don't be afraid to ask questions, even if they were part of the demonstration. It would be a good review, and we can certainly address them. So the what I'm seeing, Peter, is a lot of different options that Ava provides,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of different channels of a very similar service. Originally, and you please correct me if I'm wrong here, is originally you started out with your phone app,
Yep.
and that was for effectively in-person two-way conversations, or
Yep.
then I think you graduated into multiple person conversations identifying the speaker,
Yep.
and now we're up to some quite complex and opportunities for it to be integrated with a lot of different services and platforms, not just with Zoom and classrooms and that, but many options there that I can think of.
Yeah.
The with your pricing, I'm curious if that covers all of the different avenues that we would access Ava through, or is it just for the web and the Zoom stuff?
No, yeah, that's a good question, and indeed, it covers all our services. Again, like the scribe is an additional fee, and that's because we have professional, staff that we need to have. We that so it's like including humans, so therefore there's an additional price associated to that service. But in terms of the price points that I was showing, that includes all the services. Also note that what I'm showing you here is the organizational pricing, assuming that the majority of the people on the call today are really looking for that implementation within the organization. If you're thinking of specific individuals that could potentially use it, there's also a free version of the app. So if a consumer user is looking to have more access to when they go to their doctor's appointment, or quick one-on-one interactions and such, they can just go to the App Store and Play Store to download the app there, and they have access to some of the features that I have been showing today, but there is limited access, and the accuracy levels that we provide there are not of the same. Are not the same. So like with the organizational plan, the base accuracy is per definition already higher. And there's just more we can do, simply because there's quite a lot of costs associated to that. We would love for that to all be free, but it's a bit
Okay. Yeah, and human versus machine learning as well. So
Correct. Yeah.
the I do just want to point out and confirm the one thing that unfortunately makes a little bit of a large difference for Canadian to the U.S. is the prices that you were showing are in U.S. dollars.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong on the pricing. I understood that your organization is more about making sure that the needs are met for those who would benefit from your product than not. So those
Yeah.
prices are able to be customized to an
Certainly.
individual institution and their needs.
Certainly. Yes.
Okay.
And, to that point too, I think, whenever we engage with organizations and people, like, it's always the case that we first implement things and work with, for example, the student, and see, are they liking this? What part is working? What isn't working? And, before talking about pricing and before, making any deals, so to say, the first priority is, okay, is this something that can benefit the student? And I think, coming back to the very beginning of my story, and we're a very mission-driven company. The way we look at it is we want to make the world 24/7 accessible for anyone who's deaf or hard of hearing. And, hopefully, to a certain extent, I was able to kind of convey also that through these services, what we're trying to do by having that mobile application, both for one-on-one interactions as well as group conversations, and by having these online captioning capabilities, we're really trying to cover a lot of ground, and making it so that now the students or the individuals, they have tools at their disposal that can really help them out in any situation where they find themselves to be isolated. Because we're very aware of the existing captioning and interpreting space. Ultimately today, let me also be very clear about that, CART services, professional CART services, professional interpreters are still the best solution. They, however, have limitations in, the reservation time, the availability. Sometimes there are budget constraints. And so what we've noticed is just there's a lot of situations where deaf and hard of hearing people find themselves being isolated because they don't have access to those services. And we talk about FM systems or hearing aids. At times these amplified noise. And so I find myself sitting in a noisy environment, and I'm going to take my hearing aids off or turn them off, and I'm not going to use them. And so it's these times where we really want to be, and where sort of the whole idea of that sort of 24/7 accessibility comes in. And then Scribe is a service that we're providing on top, because we recognize that there are certainly situations where the automatic speech recognition, no matter if you're using Ava or any of the other apps that are out there today, they only can do so much. So there is a point where the accuracy stops, being better, because you basically hit a ceiling. And that's where we want to have, again, that human to come in and to help to correct, so to provide the accuracy ultimately that the student needs in that situation. So that's to kind of give you a little bit of a more sense of that, the vision that we have there, and the way we really see how accessibility should be. Yeah.
All right, I appreciate that information, Peter. I know that we are coming to a close in a few moments here. I know that there's one question in the chat that I want to have you address, and that I did have a question sent in prior to our session today by a person who's not able to attend live, but wanted to make sure that it got asked. So while we're answering these last two questions that have been submitted, I do encourage anybody with other questions, please enter them into the chat and/or unmute your microphone. Arwa, and forgive me if I've mispronounced your name, Arwa is asking what makes Ava different from other technologies such as Sonocent and Otter?
Totally. And thanks also for that question, Arwa. I think, specifically mentioning those two technologies, let me start by saying that they're both great technologies. I think Sonocent is focused really on the note-taking piece for students, and kind of providing that sort of enhanced learning tool. And specific with Otter, they are actually a company that's oriented to caption or for business meeting notes, I should say. And what's interesting, I think that's where the main difference actually starts, because I'm not sure if you were able to attend the whole session, but I guess, what I just mentioned too, Ava was started about 6 years ago. We started with the problem definition. So the story of my two co-founders, and the technology was something that we found as a solution. So we identified the fact that, people with hearing loss today are often isolated, and especially when it comes to understanding conversations around them, whether it's today with the masks or, multi-person conversations, it can be incredibly challenging. And so this is where we found that problem. And then we said, okay, what technology is there? How can we use technology to solve that problem? And that's how we found speech recognition. And if you think about it, 6 years ago, we only had Siri, I think. So we were very, very early with sort of building out the technology. And at the time, it wasn't really ready yet. But to say that, the main difference, I think, between a company, for example, like Otter and Ava, is the fact that Ava is building this from a problem standpoint, and really thinking about how can we make accessibility happen for deaf and hard of hearing people. A company like Otter today, and they really came to market, I think 2 years ago or so, is looking to tap into the market of business meeting minutes. And they actually found out, while they're putting their product out, that a lot of deaf and hard of hearing people started using it, and that it actually is a very interesting market for them. And that's when we also saw them, entering sort of our space, so to say. But what you're going to find when you look at the application is that a lot of the interface and a lot of the, the features that they provide are sort of limited from an accessibility standpoint. And so then I get to a different part of comparing the tools. I think, with Ava, there's this notion of holistic accessibility. So you start with the mobile device. Now you have the ability to connect that device to any number of other devices of people around you. This is not something actually that Otter or Sonocent is able to do. So they don't provide that sort of like multi-person captioning ability. And if you look at the online space, I don't think that Sonocent currently that provides captioning for any sort of conference calls and such. And I know for a fact also that Otter, doesn't have like something like a desktop application. So I think again coming back to that point is we're on a mission to make every situation accessible for the deaf or hard of hearing person, and you might not find the same with other tools that you find out there. That doesn't mean that they are not, well-performing tools and great tools for certain situations. So I know that's a very long answer, and I apologize for taking that much time. But I hope that that kind of helps to answer your question.
Okay, great. I appreciate that, Peter. And just the question that had come in by someone who's not able to attend live was regarding or surrounding the privacy and security, specifically the storage of information, the processing, generating the captions, whether you're using a third-party service, that kind of a question. Could you talk very briefly to that?
Yeah, you mean about the sorry, the speech recognition piece, or like the
Well, speech recognition and your whole product overall, as to like if I was to use Ava, is my data stored? If so, where? How is it processed? While it's being processed, is there any privacy? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Okay, that makes sense. Sorry,
Okay.
that makes sense. And yeah, no, I think that the thing is, we work with a lot of larger organizations, whether it's healthcare institutions or financial institutions, corporations. And the reason I'm saying this is because we've gone through a lot of, security checks and measures and assessments. And we've at times had to, build and put in place extra measures to be able to comply there. And so at this time, I feel very comfortable to say that, whatever is sort of the data privacy and security measures that your organization has in place, we probably will be able to comply. And more specifically, if we work with a client that says, okay, we don't want any data storage to happen because, for example, let's say we need to comply with HIPAA and we have patient information that needs to be protected. There's the ability actually to turn off any data saving. Any data storage. There's also the ability to turn off any transcript saving on the user side. And that being said, if that's not the case, the data is encrypted while when at rest in transit. Our infrastructure is built in a way that it is highly protected. I will say one thing, our servers are either in the US or in Europe. So that's something that, sometimes we have to work with the organization to make sure that there are specific measures in place to accommodate for that, because I am also aware that some Canadian organizations have more strict requirements on the server location, etc. But other than that, I think it depends a little bit on the exact needs of the organization or the individual. And typically what happens is we have a conversation with your IT security team, and we work through the questions and assessments together, and yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay, all right. And just a side note to that, or a follow up to that, was are there any third party providers that are actually supporting your captions that you're in services? Obviously, there's the human on the scribe level, but the automated stuff, is it a third party, or is it all housed on your own proprietary software?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Yeah, no, I will say that there are definitely some external services that we use. It's not all within Ava, and like an example is our data like servers are on AWS, so Amazon Web Services, like probably like most companies today actually. But yeah, so I don't know to what extent that answers your question, but some of our services happen externally. And we do have data privacy agreements in place with those organizations, and to essentially make sure that they also comply with our clients' needs.
Okay, perfect. It was just a slight follow-up to that I know the person had included as an example in their question. So I appreciate you clarifying that.
Of course.
And Anne had contributed in the chat as well in regards to the what makes Ava different than the others. Just to for those who may not have read that, is Anne shared that Ava is unique because it identifies individual speakers in the conversation or at the discussion table, and therefore making the users feel included and welcomed. So I appreciate that that addition there,
Definitely.
Anne.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to take the screen share back here for us,
Perfect.
and if my computer cooperates, because it's the day of technology, and it looks like it did. So so I'm not seeing any other final questions in the chat, and I hadn't seen anybody unmute their microphones. So your contact information was there on the screen, as well as I said, the slideshow will be shared with the recording. So if anybody does have additional questions, they can obviously get in touch directly with you or through your website at ava.me.
Yep.
So I'd like to thank you, Pieter, for sharing with us today. Ava has come so far in such a short time period, and as I think you phrased it, I may not be quoting you exactly, but generally speaking, you underline the thing that has driven you right from the very beginning, is that you're building a response to a need.
Totally.
And supporting the world in general from the accessibility perspective, which makes a big difference.
Totally.
And we appreciate that. And as assistive technology professionals, we're always adding to our toolboxes. They're just, there's never enough tools in those toolboxes. We can never have too many options. So knowing a little bit more about Ava and that to be able to help us as we further support those that we work with, it's only going to help us immensely in the long run. So again, thank you, Pieter, for sharing.
Thank you.
Your support of the assistive technology profession and the Network of Assistive Technologists. It's greatly appreciated. I do encourage you to please keep in touch.
Absolutely.
We look forward to continuing the collaboration, and if there's any major developments with Ava, any new features, things like that that you want to share with our organization, please let me know. And just at this point, lastly, for everyone here today, thank you for joining us. And just remember, you can't spell education without AT. So until next time, take care and stay safe.